In this short video, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can keep your children quiet in church, and not just quiet, but some of them will even want to pay attention during church, which is even a greater bonus. And later I'll share a link especially for infants and a method that will help you keep them completely quiet and in one place in church. Number 1, have a conversation on their level. First, you have to establish with them that when they go to church, they are going to need to be quiet. Don't wait till you get to church and then try to keep telling them to be quiet there. Sit down and have an eye-to-eye conversation on their level, on their age level, and let them know that when they go into church, they're going to need to be quiet and they're going to need to whisper if they have something to say. Number 2, teach them about whispering. I've seen so many times when a parent keeps telling a child, be quiet, whisper, and the child keeps talking, but they don't know what whispering means. They don't even know how to whisper. So show them the difference between speaking and whispering. And you can do this really easily. Just take their hand and put it on your neck. And as you're speaking, let them feel those vibrations that your voice box is making and say, this is speaking. And then whisper like this. When you whisper, that vibration stops. The vocal cords do not vibrate when you're whispering. Then let them do that on their own neck and say speak and then have them whisper. Now they know the difference between speaking and whispering. Number 3, don't bring a ton of toys and snacks. Now this is a really good tip. I know you've been told or you've thought that if you bring more toys and more books, you'll have more things to occupy your children, and that will help them be quiet longer. When you bring lots of toys and books, you're setting up an expectation. And that expectation is that they will have more toys as soon as they get rid of the one they're playing with now. They just use each item quicker. Bring only 2 or 3 quiet toys. You can also bring 1 coloring book for each child that's old enough. Now, when I say old enough, I'm saying don't bring a coloring book and then it's a child that can just do this on the page. That is not someone who's old enough to do a coloring book. A coloring book would be for a child who's old enough to try to color within the lines. And then you also want to bring a pad of paper and a pencil for children who are old enough to draw pictures. That's all. 2 or 3 small, quiet toys, a coloring book and a few little crayons, and a pad of paper and a pencil. That's all. Number 4, keep items just for church. In other words, those toys and coloring books and so on, only keep those for church. This will make them more interested in those when they get them just at church. If they use them during the week, they won't be as interested in them when they get to church. There are a few suggestions in the links below that you can find some quiet church toys that would be appropriate. So I hope you'll check out those links. Number 5, get them involved. There are a few times that a child can be involved in the service as it's going on, even if they're too young to maybe understand what is going on in the sermon. Some churches, of course, have a children's minute, which is really nice, where the children get to go up there and they tell a little story to the children, and I think that's awesome. But they can also be helping you throughout the service. For instance, if it's time to sing a hymn and you have to get a hymnal out, have them reach the hymnal, have them look up the number if they're old enough. Let them kind of do that. That's kind of good for them in thinking of numbers and so on. Let them look that up for you. When it's time for offertory, be sure they have something that they put in the plate and they can pass it back and forth. And when it's prayer time, make sure that they know that it's time for them to bow their head and close their eyes and pray along with the person praying. It's much easier for a child to sit quietly when they have little times that they break up that sitting quietly and doing things that are involved in the service. If you get my book, How to Train Your Child to Behave, I have an entire chapter about how to use church as a tool. So you might want to check that out, and that will also be in the links in the